All right, well, welcome again, Team ET. Another fantastic week, and just talking with our guest, and I'll introduce Manoj in a moment. But just talking about the end of financial year. Um, by the time this is released, we're probably at least a month beyond the end of September, so it's probably going to be end of October, maybe even November. But it's been a busy week. It's been a hectic year, and we're coming towards Christmas already, which is fantastic. Manoj, I'm not sure about what you're doing. You're sitting in Singapore. Well, first of all, welcome to the ET project. Great to have you on.
Oh, thank you, Wayne. Thank
I
you.
really look
Thank you
forward
for
to our
having me.
conversation. We've had some exchanges already, and really interesting, really exciting. So I'm looking forward to our conversation. But you're sitting in Singapore. In Singapore, how much do you celebrate the Western Christmas period?
Oh, actually, Singapore celebrates a whole tapestry of festivals from around the world. So Christmas is a very, very good period.
Yes.
And partly because it's a marketing season, people buy presents, right? So it's
Yeah.
actually marketed well, and there is a lot of celebration. A lot of companies may have shut down on for a few days, and it's like a year-end period, school holiday. So it's a period of celebration, not
Right.
just for religious reasons, but also for that celebratory year-end period. And it's very well celebrated as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
And people can probably pick up that your accent isn't so much Asian. It sounds a little bit more Indian. So maybe you'd like to give us a bit of a background on where you've come from, and what you're
Sure.
doing in Singapore.
I was born in Kerala, in India. It's the southern west coast of India. And I did my engineering degree in India in BTech in electronics and communication engineering. Then I
Right.
went from one thing led to another. I did management consulting. I did a host of other things. Ran my own consulting company. I did um, of course, right now, what I do, like management consulting, leadership coaching,
Mm.
executive coaching, public speaking, professional speaking, and mentoring, and whole sort of different things. But yeah, I'm from Kerala in India.
Very good. We're going to definitely get into the public speaking. For those that don't know, you would have heard me say it in the intro, but Manoj is a world champion public speaker through the Toastmasters organization. We're going to spend some time unraveling that, understanding how you got there and the journey as much as anything. But yeah, it's very interesting. So you studied, I believe, the Imperial School of Business, or one of
Oh,
those up
that's
in
right.
London. Yeah.
That's right. So after doing engineering
Mm.
and working in organizations, especially management consulting, I realized there was some gap.
Right.
And typically, when engineers find a gap, they go and do an MBA. And so I did MBA from Imperial College London. And it was a great stuff. Okay. It was a great education, but I realized it didn't solve my core problems.
Mm.
Right. It didn't really make a tangible change in my career. That's when, for the first time in my life, I started to take a step back and really observe people who are successful in their personal life and a professional life, the people who climb the corporate ladder
Right.
faster. What are
Right.
they doing differently? And that's what I discovered: 5 core skills that they have, and which I never learned.
Mm.
I should say nobody ever taught me that stuff, and I didn't learn. So I realized, if you do not master those 5 core skills, it doesn't matter what you master. Your qualifications and all these things are lesser ranked compared to that. So I realized you have to master those 5 core skills. So that's when, after my MBA, I started focusing on developing those 5 core skills
Right.
to make it more impactful. And then results are
You,
proof that it works.
you've proved it in a big way. Um, so maybe we'll just look at that journey a little bit, because I think your first business or company it started in 2004. Um, what was it called? Something XB5,
Yeah. So
something
so
like
I used for work for Big Five Consulting. So when I left and started my company, I call it X Big Five, that XB5 Consulting. So that was focused on consulting. And to do that, it was like jumping in the deep end of the pool, because I had no experience running a business. I didn't have those 5 core skills I now talk about. So that's also part of my self-discovery. See, this week I was telling somebody, then everything you do eventually is a journey of self-discovery.
Yes.
Of finding what you're good at, what you need to improve, and what you need to do to fix your gaps. So that actually took me into situations which I was not used to before, like consulting for some of the largest companies in the world, working with people from some 45, 46 different countries in the same teams, looking at the cultural diversity, different people, different attitude, behaviors, cultures. And so to navigate that, I really enjoyed doing that. I really enjoyed observing people, learning people, finding where they're from, what they do differently, what makes them think in a certain way. So this was a part of that journey of growing. So more than a business, I realized it was my own journey of self-discovery, like hitting new roadblocks, taking on new risks, new challenges, meeting new people, listening to different perspectives. And I think that was the most enriching part of it.
Right. How did you branch out into management consultancy in the sense that you worked with all these large companies? Like, how did you get connected with them in the first place?
Oh, that's a very good question. So one of the 5 core skills I mentioned, if you want, I can quickly go through the 5 cores. We can go in detail later.
Yeah.
One core skill. So the 5 core skills, one is an ability to connect. How do you connect with people when you meet them for the first time? How do you talk? How do you introduce stuff like that? Right? But actually, it's not same as networking, but it's connection, like connecting as a human level. Yeah. So the ability to connect, ability to communicate. How do you express your thoughts clearly, confidently, convincingly? The ability to network. I'm a shy, reserved introvert, so networking is like the last thing I want to do. But the way I reframed in my mind is networking is an ability to build a network of relationships so that you get the right help when you need it the most. An ability to lead, how to lead people, manage by exception, get things done, building high performance teams, things like that. And an ability to influence. How do you get other people to accept your ideas? So going back that, I realized when I started my company, a lot of my business came from the connections I made before.
Okay.
People recommending me to people, and I'm kind of maximizing those opportunities. And once I am inside the customer or a client, I'm trying to build a very authentic way. I usually say you should network without drinking, bragging, or golfing. Because drinking, bragging, and golfing is going to take a lot of time. My strategy is to make those deep connections so that people remember for a long time. So sometimes I have had my colleagues or customers recommending me after 20 years. So I use that example saying that we have to maximize those interactions, being present with people as you talk to them. So this has also helped in other aspects of life, right? Making those deeper connections. So it's not because of marketing a trick or something to break into the big clients. Actually, it's a less glorified ideas of simple conversations that led to opportunities. But you probably heard this, right? People like to do business with those they know, like, and trust. That's it. That's as simple as that. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I pick up on a buzzword used very loosely these days, authentic or authenticity is really at the core of you and how you present yourself to build that relationship, if I picked up correctly.
That's right. So this came from actually me interviewing my customers, asking the simple question, why did you hire me?
Right.
Because so it came from, and this word keeps coming. So that's what works. That was, I had a client from Australia, and I asked him this question. I don't do a lot of outbound marketing. I don't call people. I don't message them on LinkedIn, ask them, do you? So but everybody's doing it. Everybody else seems to be doing it. Should I be doing it? He stared at me and said, no, you should not be doing it. I said, what makes you say that? He said, you are like a magnet. So at least that's where the way they perceive. So I said, okay, fine. So that's how I did. And again, it works in my style because I am honestly a shy, reserved introvert. So for me to go beyond my comfort zone is a lot of a steeper learning curve than I'm maximizing my strengths as an introvert.
Mm. And so from your management consulting business, which I believe you still have, if that's correct. In 2008, memory serves me correctly, you then started your second organization, Thought Expressions, which is also running now. This is your main business, I guess, today. Is that the case?
That's right. So what happened was when I was doing consulting, initially I said this was going through referrals and people recommending. Then actually I lost a deal, lost a renewal deal just because I didn't know how to negotiate.
Okay.
Because I thought this was running client, I was like, oh, how can I make such a mistake? Because I thought, so I was thinking what is missing. Then actually I started actually doubling down on some of the other core skills which I have not been working on. Part of that was speaking, influencing, like that kind of communicating better, stuff like that. That's when I started focusing on that. So then the better I got, people actually started asking me, can you help me to overcome my fear, present, become a keynote speaker and stuff like that. So that's where I love doing that. I literally, and as you definitely know, it's like the coaching is the force for good in the world, right? It's the most powerful force of good for change in the world. And I really like that. I really, really enjoyed it. So then we incorporated and made it like a specific different things. Eventually, I got more and more interested in doing that. Partly because you can actually see individuals change in coaching.
True. Very true.
When I'm doing a massive project with 400 people in a management consulting or a large project, you don't really see the end impact of your changes you make. But when you're sitting with somebody one-on-one, listening to their problems, giving them, guiding them or mentoring them, you see change, you feel like, wow, I can do that, right? So that was more fulfilling.
So we're edging our way along your career curve, if you like, or your career journey. Between the start of Thought Expressions, 2008, and 2017, when you were crowned world champion, business, I guess, was predominantly at the heart of what you were doing. Although I believe, if my research is correct, you started in public speaking and with Toastmasters at the turn of the decade type of thing. So around 2010, 2012. Is that my...
No, actually, I started public. I've been thinking about starting public speaking for a long time, since 2006. But eventually I started in 2008, because this is the problem with everybody who wants to learn public speaking. They keep pushing it down till it become a problem, right? So I was already doing that. And so my intention was not, I was focused purely on impact, because I could not believe that I waited so long to learn such a critical skill of whether it's public speaking or leadership or this human behavior elements and body language and stuff like which I could have learned like in my school, right? Somebody should have taught me in the school. So when I started learning this and I saw this huge impact, man, like tremendous impact on people and me, I realized, hey, this is something I can help other people to shorten their curves, shorten their learning curves, right? That was my motivation. So my focus primarily was still in the management consulting space. Then I got more serious in this like few years down the lane, in terms of, I need to do this, focus more time on this.
Right.
Because, as like following what, those days it was more fashionable. After 2008, if you remember, after the financial crisis, became more fashionable to follow your passion. Following your passion became more fashionable. So I was one of those people who say, yeah, I need to do something I want to do. Yeah.
That's because we had no money left, right?
there was all these big organizations are collapsing, and we are like running after something that's not making much impact.
Right.
Yeah.
in this period, you wrote a couple of books, I believe.
Yeah, I did write a book into I did actually 4 books. 2 of them were co-authored with others. And the 2 books really stood out. One was on leadership, mastering leadership, the mousetrap way. That's about how to become the leader others admire and follow. And I was just fortunate that the #1 leadership thinker in the world, Marshall Goldsmith, actually wrote a great endorsement for the book. So that gave me a lot of credibility and also taught me a lesson that I should be like helping even more people, right? I've also increased my belief system of that this is valuable stuff. So that was one. Then after I won the world championship, again, the same, actually the objective was the same, to help others shorten their learning curve. I wrote a book on how to become the world champion of public speaking, because I thought if I had read that such a book when I started, I would not have spent all these years to win the world championship. So I essentially wrote a book I wanted to read.
We're going to unpack that, if that's okay, in a moment. You mentioned Marshall Goldsmith. I mean, Marshall's somebody as a coach. I think any coach in the world knows of Marshall Goldsmith. How did you come to meet him, and how did he come to write your forward? Or write?
Oh, this is excellent question. So I also believe in serendipity. Yeah, so I typically say I learn things in 3 ways. One is strategy. I use my intellect and make things happen. And second is stupidity, make mistakes and learn from the mistake. Third is serendipity. So one thing led to another. I've never met Marshall Goldsmith before. One thing led to another. Somebody recommended my book and brought it in front of him, and he wrote the testimonial.
Very nice.
So I'm like surprised. I'm like honestly surprised, because that line he wrote is magical, because he has a famous book called What Got You Here Won't Get You There.
Yeah.
And the line he wrote for me is basically my book, The Mousetrap Way, will help you to get there. Or something like that. So I'm like, also at least the word resonated with me a lot. And I think I'm very fortunate. I could not have made it happen, right? Just a combination of events that made it happen.
So very briefly, what is your book, Mastering Leadership, The Mousetrap Way?
Oh, so it's about it's about a 2-minute story, which I call The Mousetrap. And I derive 18 leadership lessons, which from my observation of people and my own journey and people of the journey of people I have coached and met, 18 competencies they need to work to be seen as a leader. So typically it's for people who do not really believe they can be awesome leaders, or do not know what's the path. So I start from that 2-minute story. It's a very compelling story. So I use that in my keynote, and that's one more reason the book became popular. You can watch the keynote on YouTube.
Yes.
So it's actually a 2-minute story, but I developed that into so part of that is storytelling, part of that is making the messages stick, and giving a framework for people to implement. Starting with ownership. So I say, my take on this: ownership is the habit that leads to leadership. So people who take initiative without directive, get on stuff, learn stuff, make mistakes. So then there is like step by step from ownership all the way to achieving a vision. So, and I've tested with this with people. So a lot of people said, oh, I never thought I was going to be a CEO of a 200,000 member company. I just did one thing, then one thing led to another. And I thought that was the way I have grown. One thing led to another, and you grow from there.
Yeah, so I like that. I'm delivering a leadership program at the moment. One of the modules is on ownership, but I like that because it's for a group of leaders. So I'm going to steal that, if that's okay. Yeah. The year 2017, I'm sure, is etched in your brain forever. You had a small victory in 2017. It was a world championship that you were awarded. We'll talk specifically to that in a moment, but I'm just wondering. We all know as leaders that the final event, the crowning in this case of the World Championship, is the end of that journey, that journey that you're on to get there. So I'm just wondering if you could unpack a little bit of the journey that led you to that point.
Okay, sure. So one thing that happened, and I'm not saying anybody who listens to this copy my pattern, because different things work for different people. For me, when I started, I wanted something to aim at. because I was terrified of public speaking. I was not speaking because I'm not speaking, not because I don't know it's useful, but I just don't know how to do it. I was afraid to do it. And I was not seizing opportunities, I was avoiding opportunities many a time. What happened was one of my mentor at that time, he said, hey, you should compete to become the world champion of public speaking. I said, what is that? So that's where it started, right? So he planted a seed. And then I was curious. I said, that's a good goal. So I like that goal-oriented approach to most things in life, because you know what you're shooting at, Then right now I tell people always stay ready for the next level, right? Whatever job you are, look for the next level, because that goal-oriented approach kind of channels your behaviors and actions you take to get to somewhere. So what I really spent time actually to learn public speaking, implement. So I've done humorous speaking. I've been a champion in various forums there. I've done stand-up comedy. I was among the top 25 stand-up comedians at the International Comedy Festival in Hong Kong. But I didn't pursue that path because my mentor said that's not the direction you should be going. So I then was immersing myself with this goal of winning. So the key question people ask me is slightly different from what you asked. In 2015, I was world number 3 in the same contest. That gave me a lot of fame. My video was viral and people were calling me and stuff like that, right? But in 2017, I competed again to become world number 1. So people say, you're already world number 3. Why do you want to go through all the trouble to compete again? So, but in my mind, my goal was to be world number 1. World number 3 was not even a consolation prize for me. Because so then I started thinking, how come people don't think the same way? I realized people are not thinking the same way. Then I coined a word called world champion mindset, to believe to be the number 1 in what you do, because then you benchmark. The key thing is you start benchmarking with a certain group of people, then you model those behaviors and you increase your minds. No, you change the order of your thinking. You have a higher order thinking, and the results changes dramatically. It's exponentially different, just because what you benchmark with. So that was the key learnings. One is my own self-discovery of, I can set a goal and achieve it. Second is my own learning, and of course, amazing people I met in the journey. You meet a lot of people, and of course, then again, my thought process is, what can I do to shorten the journey of other people? Because by that time, I had already had my book on leadership. I was doing leadership coaching. I'm specialized on a topic called next level leadership readiness, helping people to break through the next level in their career. So I had some leadership coaches who was mentoring me that time. So I was so immersed in that. Then I became the world champion. So when I tried to integrate these two things together, I was doing leadership coaching. People ask me for world championship or professional speaking, keynote speaking. So I integrated everything under this next level leadership readiness. So nice. That was how it's integrated. Yeah.
So if we were to put a timeline against it, are we talking multiple years? You mentioned 2015, the actual World Championship.
I believe I attempted over many years, like 7 or 8 years, I attempted 5 times. So my goal was to win within the 5th time. But I believe I eventually won the 6th time, if I'm not wrong. 5th time I was world number 3. 6th time I had to go one more time to get the world number 1. So that was a lot of relief, because it's a lot of effort. It's like 35,000 speakers from 142 countries. And I'm an Asian, I'm not a native speaker. So to really compete at the level needs a lot of dedication and sacrifices. Yeah.
There's so many expressions we could use that would represent this journey, I'm sure. I think the Japanese have an expression, I'm paraphrasing, but fall down 7 times, get up 8 type of thing. and Mandela says something similar. So you're a very persistent individual, it seems. So once you have a goal, you really lock onto it and persist until you achieve it.
Yeah, I would say, if I had won the first attempt, because of course the first attempt I thought I'm going to win. Like every time you attempt, you think you're going to win. If I had won in the first time, I would not have learned more about myself. So that's why I keep emphasizing everything we do is a journey of self-discovery. So that eventually leads to total personal mastery, right? Totally under. So I believe setting those goals and believing in those goals, even to be anything you want, like even let's say somebody watching this want a certain role, you want to be a CEO of the company. I would say being, becoming, and believing.
Mm-hmm.
You first be the CEO in your mind. You think like a CEO, show demonstrate behavior CEO. Then, of course, becoming the CEO, that you end up being that. I use the word CEO, it could be anything, but being, becoming, and believing. Believing is very important. Once you reach there, a lot of people, if they don't believe, they start to have imposter syndrome. Or maybe, oh my God, so you have heard all about this, right? So I will always say you have to start believing, yes, of course, I'm the world champion. I am the world champion. So that belief, or I am the CEO. So this belief, if you don't instill in it, that I've seen, I've seen CEOs who cry on the job just because they have not prepared for that job. Right? They complain and whine about everything. Actually, so can you believe sometimes I go home and cry? I said, really? Yeah, because but he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing, right? So that is part of these 2-3 things: be not having the being, becoming, and believing steps.
So that in a way answers the question I was going to ask you about. 5 attempts, you're still not number one. You're going back for your 6th attempt. Was there any doubt in your mind?
Oh, so the 6th time I hadn't have, I was so convinced in my mind. But of course, to be honest, I did the preparation. It's not like a blind belief.
Yes.
I did the work, but in my mind, I was so convinced I'm going to win. I even prepared a thank you speech. And when they asked me to, after giving the trophy, they asked me to deliver a speech. I took a paper from my pocket and said, they all started laughing because this guy had a speech. So, because I always notice a lot of people after they win anything, they don't really believe they win. And when they ask to speak, they fumble. Then I say, I should not be that person. I have to be ready. So nowadays, when I tell people and anything they achieve, I said, start acting as if you're actually going to get it. Whether or not you get it, a second thing, but you actually should have that approach towards it. Right. Then the results might be more in favor.
Stephen Covey, start with the end in mind.
Start with the end in mind.
I know we've spoken about this when we first connected, but I'd love you to share your story about the actual day or evening of the event. So for the listeners, standing in front of a large group is something that they probably fear more than death, or at least that's what the surveys show.
Okay.
How did you approach your day, your evening?
Okay, that's true. But actually, you should realize that by that time, I'm already an established speaker. I was doing personal speaking, so I was in a different state of mind. But I'm used to that. So I've spoken to audience of 20,000 before that. So I'm used to that stage. But that stage only had 2,000 people, right? So it's like I'm saying that's no. So this I tell people, when once your mind is you heard this line, mind is stretched. It doesn't come back to the same dimension, right? So audience-wise, I was not stressed. What I was stressed about or concerned about was the event was at night, at 9 p.m. or something like that, late at night. And there's a huge conference, 2,000 people. People were in the room since 8 a.m. in the morning till night. And I know from experience that people are very tired and not paying attention at night. So I looked at the time in the agenda and prepared accordingly. Okay. So one of the things I did, actually slept the whole day. I just woke up like 1 hour before the event, then went to speak. So this actually relaxed me a lot. But though I had my own challenges because I'm rushing to get to the event almost late and stuff like that. But the resting was something that really helped. And also, I typically say in your public speaking journey, there are 3 specific milestones. So people who are starting this journey, they're so focused on themselves, right? So it's like that's when the fear is the highest. Yes. In fact, I did a TEDx talk on this, which is where I was sharing stop the fear that stops you. You can watch that. One of the things I say is that the root cause of your fear is your ego. We avoid situations that will hurt our ego. Right. And so this, I speak more about this, but so there are specific things you can do to get there. But the whole idea for me, to answer your question, was I was used to that stage. I was focused on delivering my speech. I had a feeling that I'm going to win. So, and I had a feeling that I need to do a good job. That was the process for that. Yeah.
We mentioned the first time we connected that I noticed maybe within the first 10, 15 seconds, there was a sense that you weren't at ease. Now, I don't know if that was just my own interpretation of seeing you for the first time.
There are two aspects to it, right? One is in these kind of contests, typically what we do, I mean, this is like if it's this kind of events, even if I'm a professional speaking as well, but this particular event where you're judged and people are really observing you closely.
Yes.
One way to create a deep connection is to start with a pause. So you don't go hit running. So most people like just start with something loud, but pausing and taking a pause, like a long pause and looking at the audience, actually start the anticipation going, right? Of course, one thought that crossed my mind, maybe I should have drank more water. So that thought did cross my mind because I thought, I should have. So, but apart from that, that pause at the start, if you're the 5 seconds you said, that's actually deliberate to in turn to actually look at the audience, connect and know, because so when I'm talking to you and suddenly I pause, you want to hear what I'm going to say next, right? So this is actually a public speaking. In fact, I sent out just a mail today to my list saying that the one thing you need to say more to level up your public speaking is to pause at the right places.
Yeah. It's something that we also talk about as facilitators. Using pausing as a facilitator is very effective because people, as they drift off, they suddenly hear this silence and they're immediately brought back to focusing on where they should be focused because of that silence. So it's a very useful tactic for sure.
And surprisingly, that's a tactic for stand-up comedy as well, humor. People say you're good timing for humor. That's because you know where to pause.
Right. Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so you've already released a couple of books by this time. So probably not surprisingly, there was a book and you've mentioned it, How to Become a World Champion of Public Speaking. You released this, I think, in 2019. I know I read the shorts on it. You cover a lot of topics in this book, but there was 5 essential ingredients that it highlights. I wonder if you could just touch on those.
Absolutely. No, there's no problem. Actually, this came from one of the CEOs, one of the top billionaire CEOs, and he wanted to equip his executive talent to actually scale up in the organization. He asked me this question: hey, how come my people don't speak up? They don't communicate better. And he's a like phenomenal communicator. He's like on all the top. He's a top ranking CEO in the world. Okay. And he said, how come my people are not doing it? And then I said, one thing. So he asked me to coach some of them, but I said, no, I can't coach them unless they realize this is something important they have to learn. And then they have benefit in learning this. So I can't you can take a horse to the river, but you can't make it drink, right? The horse really need to be thirsty, right? So people need to have that. That's what keeps telling them, you need to have a goal, you need to focus on. So he asked me what's something. So whatever I told him became my idea for that book, which was, I said, number 1 is a mindset. Mindset. Yeah. So in the general context of your audience of executive talent, I would say, mindset of what is the goal you're achieving. So in my book, I would say the world champion mindset to actually be there. And so extends that's at the core of it. Next, in that context, in public speaking mindset, message. Right. What is that you want to say? What is your message to the world? And some people still struggle. In fact, I was coaching one top professional speaker this week, and he wanted to do a TEDx talk. And I said, so what's your message for the world? He said, you tell me. I said, I can't tell you. I want you to think. Yeah, I give you 30 seconds. Tell me, what is your message? So people really need to dig deeper and find what are their messages for the world. right? So I give some challenges around that to actually identify those messages that resonates with you, because the whole world is watching. Nowadays, anything you put on YouTube, everyone is watching, right?
Yes.
So you have to have those messaging of what is that you want to say quite clear in your mind. So mindset, message. Third one is mechanics. So that is very extensive, right? From crafting, how to connect, how to tell stories, and it's quite a very in-depth. And this was quite specific to that short speech at those kind of events.
Yes.
But widely applicable as so mindset, message, mechanics, mentors. That's very, I call them king makers. I said all kings are surrounded by king makers. So if you are smart, you will surround yourself with king makers. Yes. Like what you said, no, you need to feel young, you need to be surrounded by young people. So if you need to win big, you need to have king makers. So I call king makers really shorten the curve, and I suggest how to select a mentor, right? Typically, there's a lot of aspects to it, but one aspect I would tell you is your mentor should allow you to go beyond them. This is one big problem I've seen, because a lot of mentors want to keep you in, keep you in their shadows.
Yes.
I am very happy. A lot of my students are doing way better than me, like way better than me, right? So whether it's in professional speaking, leadership coaching, revenue generation, everything, they are like doing well, and I'm happy about it. And the reason is the best mentors I had no insecurity in me growing. They actually were cheerleaders throughout. But I've seen a lot of cases, the mentors want to make the mentees in their mold. Oh, I want you to be like me, right? No, you're. So I keep telling my people, don't follow me. No, I'm equally lost. Don't follow me. So you can learn from me. I don't want you to be my fan, right? Because that's unnecessary. Because you can learn from me. You don't have to worship me or believe everything I say, but I want you to think for yourself. I'm just giving ability to think differently and make your own conclusion. Because if you become my fan, I need to behave in a certain way to please you, right? And then I won't grow, right? So that's one of our mentors. Then the last, so again, mindset, message, mechanics, mentors, and masterminds. So masterminds is something that I strongly recommend, and I also run my own masterminds, where I say this is not even leadership is not a team, it's not a solo sport, it's a team sport. Public speaking is not a solo sport, it's a team sport. You have to come, people have to come together. Any topic, when like-minded people come together, it just really exponentially grows. You don't know in what dimensions, like the synergy, what we say, right? There's a lot of things come, new ideas emerge, you become a different person. And I run my own masterminds. I'm more like a facilitator and usually runs late at night because it's a global mastermind. So actually after the mastermind, I myself can't sleep. And people complain they can't sleep. And the reason is you're supercharged, right? You're like all these ideas brimming. And it came from the group. It not just from me, it came from, and I also give a voice to everybody in the voice. I don't want to be seen as a guru. I facilitate, I contribute, but I also learn and I give them a voice. So I believe all these 5 things are essential, not just in become the world champion, but basically a template to, I would say, in many things you can be doing.
So the 5
leadership communication. Yeah, whether it's in leadership communication or achieving goals, I think that would work.
Very nice. We'll certainly list that in the show notes. What's the life of a world champion like after you get crowned? Like, I know you've been in the limelight a lot prior to that crowning, but how much did your life change after that 2017 World Championship?
One world champion once said, he said, once you win the world championship of public speaking, you get a lot of invites to speak for free. So that is an ever-going thing. So actually it comes to certain responsibility, right? As in you have to role model behaviors and stuff, because a lot of people actually believe what you say, which is why you have to be very conscious of what you say, right? I'm just worried about that. In fact, one of the feedback I got, I told you about, I had a human library session this week. People asked me questions, and one lady said at the end, which I liked, he said, the way you speak, attach yourself to it, right? You are leaving them to take the decision. You're not attaching you. You're just giving it a suggestion and I like that. So, and I'm more conscious of doing that, because otherwise people might say, oh, he said must be right. I said, no, I said, you test it, you prove it, only then it becomes part of you. And I also tell my clients, don't give any credit for your winning. Like you own your stuff. Right. Don't say something because I asked you. So this has been an approach for me all along, but that has been very effective and also helps to grow the client, right? It's like it helps to grow the client. Then I'm following them or I'm leading them and like walking side by side and not having a conversation. So that has been my focus. And of course, from the branding perspective, as I said, my core focus was and has been on next level leadership readiness. In a way, the world championship kind of diluted my brand because I'm more famous for being the world champion. And the leadership coaching is also one of the biggest things I do. And so I had to integrate these two things in terms of world championship and this. So the opportunities of to speak always there, whether it's professional speaking or all these pro bono events. Right. So you pick and choose where you go and share your what you have to share.
What's the future look like for you? What you have planned? You hit that pinnacle. Does it stop there, or you have higher goals again that you're aiming?
Okay. So when I won the world championship public speaking, as I said, it's a true story. I said I was a person who was scared to speak. For me to speak in 2,000 people or speak in front of 35,000 people, speakers around the world, or compete against them, it's a huge, big deal. It's like a trajectory. People from my school or university say, you can speak. So in fact, one of the guys messaged me, you never spoke. I can't even remember you saying anything. You're not, forget about publishing, saying anything. So my goal, actually, that's what planned in my mind. I said, if I win, I will announce that I'm going to help 20 million people to overcome their fear of public speaking. So I started a free course, a foundational course, and called nervoustofabulous.com. That was actually for free. People register, they learn, they understand the mindset and beliefs and stuff like that. Of course, there are some advanced stuff as well. So that was my goal. But then I realized when you give people things for free, they don't pay attention, right? So when you pay attention, right? People. So I am actually getting like leveled up on those like professional coaching programs, like the confident speaker program, professional speaker program and stuff like that. And of course, one-on-one coaching. That I realize people are more invested and more serious. Not to say the other program is also a lot of people who actually the patience and discipline, they will do it as they'll complete. And the people from more than 100 countries have completed that program. So there's quite an achievement. So I'm like, I can die peacefully. And so I've done, I think, good stuff there. But that was my stuff. But this is very important. The key message is here is important. Once you achieve a goal, you see, I'm pausing. You have to replace a goal. Otherwise, your mojo will come down, right? So you put all your energy in achieving something. Yes. And then once you hit it, and you still fine, then you actually design. That's why people who after retirement, they just go down the hill. So that was, so I even tell people for your audience, I always say, always be your job. Your job is always to prepare for your next level, whatever that next level means to you, right? So otherwise you're just coasting. A lot of people say, Manoj, I'm coasting and no challenge, no motivation to work. Yeah, because you have no goals. So that part was something I was working on. Then eventually the wiser I got, I'm nowadays more go with the flow. I'm not like reduce my attachment and expectations, and I say, okay, whatever comes, I do my best I can. That has been the approach I've been taking recently since the pandemic. So the pandemic gave you a visibility of 2 weeks, right? If you get a lot of people who are affected by the pandemic, and so I said, what's the best thing I can do if there is so I focused on more high priority stuff, but generally go with the flow.
There's one element that we haven't touched on, and I can't finish the day without asking you about it because it's very topical. But you were contacted by the BBC back in 2019 for the Trump-Kim meeting. And you've already touched on the fact that you were involved in body language and human behaviour, but maybe just share a little bit around why and what transpired during this meeting.
Okay, sure. So I just quick background. I've always been observer of people. I said when I'm working and I'm always observing, reading people. And I believe that's a very important skill to have, to read the room. A lot of people communicate inside the room and wonder what happened. Why are people resisting? Because you didn't read the room, right? So I was very conscious of that. Then I had a very bad habit of being interested in geopolitics. Like I used to like read and were very excited about job. Then I recently I've like cut down on that a lot. So I was quite primed for this. So I was closely watching this event of the Trump Kim summit. So it was a secret meeting because it's a closed door meeting, right? So one of my tasks in that BBC interview, BBC event was actually see what do you think is going on. So this is like a closed door meeting, and I need to make very politically correct and also say the right thing in the geopolitical context and the place where it's located. So that's a good challenge. So but one thing I tried to stay away, because when I was watching that meeting, I was very sure that nothing is happening.
Right.
Yeah. So to give very example, you can watch this, right? Let's say after that meeting, both of them have a walk in the garden. This is something that's not, when I tell you, it doesn't look like rocket science. Okay. But having that visibility is very important. Observation is important, because here's they're walking. Let's say if it was a major achievement, the body language would have been very different.
Okay.
In the actually what happened, they're just walking around like that as if nothing happened, right? So it's very obvious. But inside the meeting, how Trump is responding, and you can see, oh, this is not going well. Now, I didn't say that for the first part. Okay, nothing happened, because something did happen. They did meet. It's quite an achievement. But if you want to see the other side of it, you watch how Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev, he actually had signed that treaty, and how their body language is different. So now, so one of the things in the media is you need to know what to say, but more importantly, you need to know what not to say, because whatever you say can be twisted and used in a different way. So so that was experience. But the real lesson here is, if you are really focused on developing your listening skills, deepen your listening skills, you can read people. And if you can read people, you can identify who they are, what are their values, what are their motives, what are their drivers. Then you can influence them. So I always say influence starts with listening. Not some magical tool from the sky. It's actually listening. And leaders who can listen, and I've seen all the best leaders, excellent listeners. Yeah. So and that one is, and of course, as a coaching as well, you deeply listen to what people are saying and what people are not saying. So that is a thing what we all do, right?
What else should we know about Manoj? Like, what else is there that we haven't touched on that we should know about you?
See, actually, I do a lot of different things, but essentially what I'm helping people to do is two things, right? To demonstrate the right behaviors and create the right perceptions, right? So people talk about leadership, communication, but they're all like the buzzwords. But the real activities, a lot of people in organizations who are demonstrating the right behaviors, but people don't have the right perceptions about them. So I usually say 4 scenarios. One is right behavior, right perception. Great. Right behavior, no right perception. Then there are people who have no right behaviors, but they have the excellent perception. You know people like that, right? They're like, they don't demonstrate any right behavior, but they create the right perception. That's not favorable. But then, of course, no right behavior, no right perception, you get fired. Everybody knows you're not good, you get fired. But the second group, where you are demonstrating right behaviors and you are not creating the right perception, your effort is wasted in some way. It might be fulfilling for you, and you wonder why your career is not progressing, is because you also had to create the right perception. So that includes everything you do. So people just busy, and getting the task done. But you don't understand they're working inside an organizational context.
Yes.
Which doesn't give you pensions in most cases, right? You don't get a pension. So you have to really maximize the limited time in that organization context to grow yourself as a leader, grow yourself as a person, achieve personal mastery. And that's the magic of organization. This, you have a structure in which you can really accelerate your self-discovery and professional growth. And people don't say, they just become task executioners. So this, I believe, is something that allows weaker ideas to win. This is what allows incompetent people to succeed. So if you're a competent person with strong ideas, I think you really need to focus not just on behavior, also on creating the right perception. So that has been my motivation, helping people.
I like that. We'll have to unpack that again at another time. Where is the best channel for people to connect with you, or if they want to follow you? What's the best way?
I am these days more active on LinkedIn. Maybe I can send you the link. You can put it down in the chat. So that's where I'm more active, and I have channelized a lot of my communication on that. Of course, I have a website called thoughtexpressions.com. That's my main website for my organization in this domain.
Manoj, it's wonderful conversation. I'm always a little bit intimidated when I talk with people with your heritage, world champion communicator, basically. So it's been a great opportunity. I really cherish the time that we've had together, and I'm sure our listeners will love it as well. So thank you so much for being on the ET project. It's been incredible.
Thank you, Wayne. It's a great to talk to you. You had excellent questions and nice talking to you, and an honor to be on your show. Thank you so much.
So what are you waiting for? Hit the subscribe button below and click on the bell icon so I can pop up in your feed occasionally with a great tip for your ultimate growth.